Hey guys, I'm here to give you some DIY mods. In my search for DIY mods on the Aries Striker on YouTube, it was very hard to find a video that I could understand, like English. So I'm putting this out there because I don't know if there's very many out there. The mods that I'm going to be covering today are fairly basic, and I'm going to give you a heads up on some mods that hopefully I'll be showing later down the road. So let's start off first with the trigger unit. In the trigger unit here, I've already disassembled everything. Make sure to just disassemble everything down and set it all to the side neatly as you see here. Whoop. So pull everything out, pull your cylinder out, everything. You don't have to, but the part that we're going after is the sear here. As you can see, it looks a little bit different than your out of the box sear. That's because I did a 90-degree mod to it. So what you're going to need for that is a file. That, or use a Dremel or metal sander or something, just so you can put a 90-degree into here. The reason why you want to do this is because if you look here on your piston, it's not 45 like the sear is. VSR 10s come stock with 45-degree sears and pistons. This comes stock with a 90-degree piston, but like not sure if it's a 45-degree sear, but comes stock with a 45-degree sear, which in the airsoft sniper world is a very bad thing to do because you'll damage your piston here. So you're going to want to do this. And how you do this is you take it, you obviously put a 45 or 90-degree cut into it or file it. But what I did is, because the first time I did it, I kind of messed up, and which is why it's so deep, is because I had to go further than I needed to. Because I was holding it straight up and down like this, so when it's in here, it's not like that. This straight bottom part isn't like that. It's more so tilted like that. So you're gonna want to get a 90 degrees with when it's slightly tilted. And I highly recommend getting a clamp, vice grip, something to hold this so you can go onto it and you're not having to hold it like this and keep it tilted or anything. Because I managed to scrape up my fingers pretty good with the file, because it'll slip off and you'll catch your fingers. Just so be careful. But on that note, since if you're gonna do this mod, if you make a mistake, you screw it up, just be aware that you're destroying your stock sear. Make sure before you do this to go out there, look at upgraded sears, because if you have to save the money because you mess up on this one, just go out and replace it instead. Alright, next one, this one's very simple, is the retainer pin. You're going to want to take this retainer pin, and how it has the cocking indicator, you're going to want to actually bust that off. Go on the inside with the pliers, bust off the inside here. You can leave this part here, just make sure it doesn't go anywhere. If it's stuck in there, it's stuck in there. If it falls out, it falls out. But get rid of that, because that can also damage your piston. Now, another one that I read a ton about, which I haven't done yet, but I plan on it, is actually going in here. If you notice, this actually screws in. Go in there with some Loctite or super glue or something, so this no longer spins out. Because if it does, it's gonna mess up your cylinder, your piston, everything. It'll damage it. So that one, as soon as you get it, just pull the retainer pin out, go out, grab super glue, but I would recommend Loctite and the blue kind in case you actually need to break it down or whatever. But Loctite, that. Next upgrade. This is an upgrade I do to every single sniper rifle I own. Teflon tape to the piston or cylinder head. Why? Because it seals the threads. Because it only has the one O-ring. If that O-ring isn't fully sealed or whatever, then it's going to leak out your threads and leak out the front. This can give you a 0 FPS boost or a significant FPS boost like I had in my VSR 10s that I worked on, upwards to 10 FPS. Compression is everything when it comes to your cylinder. Next, going off of compression. I haven't done it because mine didn't need it. Is on your piston here, you can see that the O-ring moves around in there. If it doesn't line up right in your piston, you're not going to get a good seal on here, which means you're going to lose FPS. So in turn, take some Teflon, take this off, which I will do right now. Ooh, come on. And take some Teflon tape as well and put it in here. Just enough so it just puts more retention and it doesn't move around near as much. Just put just enough, 2, maybe 3 wraps. Same with the piston head. 2, maybe 3 wraps, not too much. And then you'll end up getting a better seal. Another mod is, this one is really simple. An FPS tuning ring or whatever for an AEG. I had an old AEG go down. I never got fixed, it got broken, and I had a tuning ring in there or even ball bearings. Slide it over, and depending on how big it is, since this one's fairly large, it gave me a pretty good FPS boost. Another one. If you have stock other AEG springs laying around, just tinker around, find out which ones are good ones. Give you a little bit more. I would heavily recommend not with this stock cylinder, not exceeding 450 FPS, because by that point these pins in here will end up failing from the cocking so often. Just make sure to understand that that's not the top quality cylinder. If you're wanting to do high, very strong springs and stuff like that, you might as well replace your piston, your spring guide, and your cylinder, and then go out and buy your spring. Just understand that these are low FPS, under about maybe 450. The next upgrade is also Teflon taping your bucking. This prevents leaking around the outside of here where it's supposed to seal, making sure you don't lose any compression or air to also give you an FPS boost to make sure there's a good seal there. That's something you should do to just about all sniper rifles, just to make sure that your bucking and barrel aren't leaking and losing compression. Alright, what are my next ones? I'm just going to give you a quick tip. When pulling this apart, this is made out of cheap plastic, and it's more fiddly. If you've ever used a VSR 10, or hop-up unit, it's more fiddly than that hop-up unit even. Because this right here, doesn't actually have a very good seat on where it's supposed to go. On some units, the hop-up arm is very loose and moves side to side. You can use AEG shims. There's a little pin in here. You pull the pin out, put some shims in there, make it so it doesn't move side to side too much. Mine ended up being okay, so I didn't have to do it. But like I was saying, it's made out of cheap plastic. Be careful when you're screwing back in your feed nozzle and then all your screws to your hop-up unit. So be careful, it's not made out of the best material. I highly recommend upgrading to, once you have the money, upgrading to an Action Army hop-up unit. I have not yet, I just received it. I'm working on the funds to get it. Anything else that I need to cover? Oh yes, there is one that I haven't done yet, or there's a few. Your cylinder here. This is just black paint. It's just covering your cylinder on the inside and outside. I highly recommend on the outside sanding it off and polishing it. Make sure you don't use too rough of grit paper. You do a light sanding just to get all the paint off. Mainly just this front portion up here or maybe back here. Just be careful while you're doing it. And then you gotta go out and polish it. I haven't done it yet because I want to make sure I do it right. And what was the other one? I forgot. Oh yes, on your hop-up unit here, from my understanding, there's a little bit of movement in there, I guess, from when you put it in here. Putting in like credit card shims or whatever, make sure it stays in place, just to make sure it's tighter with the barrel and so it doesn't move around too much. That would be one I highly suggest. Like I said, I haven't done it. I've seen it on Amoeba Striker Facebook group and it works for people, but I haven't done it yet. I also haven't found the need to quite do it yet. So that'll be on the list of things for me to do. Another thing that I'm hoping somebody comes out with is, if you know VSR 10 sniper rifles, there are guides on here or holders for when it goes into the barrel. It stabilizes the barrel so it doesn't flex or anything or move out of place, so it doesn't affect your consistency of your shot. I hope somebody makes guide rings to put on here to hold it better. I don't know if someone's already made them or not, but you can make them out of just about any material. Just make sure you do your tuning and you're fiddling around, and you can use electrical tape to basically use as an O-ring, since not duct tape, electrical tape is kind of like an O-ring material. It's kind of plasticky or rubbery, so it'll absorb the shock and stuff like that. I have done it in the past just using plain electrical tape, wrapping it up, but eventually electrical tape for some reason likes to slide. Oh, and I just thought of one more DIY mod. Shrink wrap. Electrical shrink wrap. I heard putting it over the nozzle here, not actually over, but over this little lip here, just to create a more defined and better seal to the hop-up bucking. Get some shrink wrap, put it around there. I have yet to go out to the store and buy some. I don't know how cheap it is, but I'm going to be going out and buying some to put some heat shrink over that. Basically what it is, electrical tape, but you put it over and you put heat to it and it shrinks and tightens everything up and makes everything really nice, tight, and slick. And now remember, if you haven't taken apart your VSR 10, take it apart a few times. Understand how all the mechanics work and how everything works. Read your manual, even though that's to a guy that doesn't read the manual the whole often. I read this one to make sure that I took it apart right, put it back together right, and didn't damage anything. The one that I highly recommend doing as well, one more, is the cocking lever. It won't remove this, so all you have to do to remove your piston or your cylinder unit is you push out your retainer pin, and you can pull this completely out and put it back in, and then just by pulling the trigger and sliding it in at the same time, you can put it back in, put your retaining pin back in, and you're done, which makes it amazing. I'm thinking about going out and buying another cylinder unit for different FPSs for a quick changeability. That's an amazing thing that you can do. If you have questions, if you like the video, like down below, post down a comment down below. If you want me to actually do the rest of the mods, let me know, and I'll do it so you guys don't have to, because if I break it, I'll replace it. Thanks, guys.